Today, I would like to tell you a story about the Roman Empire. It's a subject that I'm very interested in, and it is because you see history as laws, as rules, as repetitions and cycles, and what happened in the past may always happen again in the future. So the Roman Empire is very much a mirror of our age. And the empire had a start, a peak, and then it collapsed and disappeared. This over a cycle of about 1,200 years, more or less. And there is a point in these great cycles, there is always a peak, a moment in which we reach a turning point, a moment in which the whole system changes, turns, basculates on the other side from growth to decline. It is something that the Roman philosopher Seneca the Younger, had noted in one of his letters and said, "Oh, growth is slow, but ruin is rapid." This is a typical characteristics of the social structures, just like empires, the Roman Empire, our empire. So what I would like to tell you today is about this turning point. Where and when and how was it for the Roman Empire, the turning point, the moment in which we go from here to here? And I think, in my opinion, that we can find it with one single event that took place in the year 258 of our era in Carthage, in Africa. It was a moment in which the Christians was already an important movement in the Roman Empire, but a moment still a minority fraction of the empire population. And at that time, it was already a very difficult moment for the empire. The empire was an economic structure, just that it was a social and military structure, it was an economic structure. It could survive only as long as it had resources to pay for all the things that the empire needed to do, the bureaucracy, the nobility, the army. And with the depletion of the Roman mines in Spain, and the empire had become much poorer than it used to be. Without gold, you cannot pay the legions, or you have a little gold, but you cannot pay as many soldiers as before. And the emperors had perfectly understood that they were in trouble. They didn't really recognize the problem with gold. They never mentioned that, but they understood there was a trouble. There was a big trouble. So they tried to strengthen the structure, the social structure of the empire by laws. You had to, before you would accept the empire because you thought that the empire was a good idea, but at this point, the emperor who says, "No, you don't. You're not free to accept or not to accept the empire. You have to, otherwise you're punished." And around that time, Emperor Decius and later Emperor Valerian, they enacted a law that says you are obliged to sacrifice to the emperor as a living god. And if you don't do that, you are punished even with death. Heavy, because never happened before. People would sacrifice to the emperor because it was the use, because they liked to, because there was a social meaning in making sacrifices to the emperor. But now it was a law that you had to, and if you had to show that you had done that by a document that was called a libellus, was written and signed by the authority, say this guy, you have performed your duty. If not, you are a criminal, you are a subversive, you are revolutionary, you are a bad person, and you may be punished with death. And that's what's happening. This the clash between two main ideas of the empire at that time: Christianity, which did not accept the divine nature of the emperor, and the emperor system, the emperors themselves. Now we are gods. And if you don't believe that we are gods, we kill you. And so, back in 258, the emperors procurator in Carthage, the city in North Africa, Galerius, summoned the Bishop of Carthage, Tacius Cyprianus, and the two men met in court in judgment that we still have the record, of which we still have the record, and we can still read this story, this clash. This story. So we may imagine Galerius, the judge, or maybe an important person, as you do it today. We go into court, and the judge is the important person. So Galerius has Cyprian in front of him. He knows who he is, but formally he asks, "Are you Tacius Cyprianus?" Cyprianus says, "Yes, I am." And Galerius says, "You are advised to obey the laws of our good Emperor Valerian and perform the correct sacrifices that you have to do as a good citizen. This is for your own sake, Cyprianus. Repent." And Cyprianus says, "No, that doesn't make a long speech." He says, "No, I am not going to do that." And Galerius insists, why don't you do that? It is for your own sake. Why do you want to lose yourself?" And Cyprianus said, "No, it's a tremendous clash of strength. The two positions are completely incompatible." And at this point, Galerius starts a speech which we still have. You are a subversive, you are a bad man, you have your followers, you have cheated your followers, convincing them to follow your evil ways, and etc., etc., etc. And for all these reasons, I condemn you to death. And Cyprianus answered with two words which destroy the Roman Empire. Only two words, enough. Deus Laudetur in Latin, in English, three words. God be thanked. Thanks to God. Enough. The clash has ended with the death of Cyprian, but Cyprian wins. Because just 2 years later, Valerian, the emperor, enters in a battle against Shapur I, the king of Persia, and is defeated, but not just defeated, is humiliated. Valerian is captured, and legend has that he is forced to act as a stool for Shapur when he climbs on top of his horse, when he climbs on a horse. And it's a legend, maybe it's true, we cannot say, but the very fact that such a legend exists implies that the Romans were shocked. This is what has happened. This emperor of us captured, enslaved, humiliated. What are we doing? And some people start thinking, well, maybe these Christians are right. You see, the turning point, the moment in which things change completely. The empire had ceased to be viable economically before, maybe a century before, but now it ceases to be a viable social structure, because an empire doesn't really exist unless you believe in it. Because the empire, you cannot touch it, you cannot see it, you cannot smell it, you cannot hear it. So as long as people believe in the empire exists. If people stop believing in it, the empire ceases to exist. And that's what happens. For the following about 2 centuries and a little more, the empire goes down, down, down. Occasionally you have an emperor who pulls it up a little more, then it starts going down. Just about a couple of decades after Valerian, the new emperor will be a Christian, Constantine I, the Great. Christianity in these emperors was more like an illusion, the superstition. They used Christianity in order to have the favor of God in their battles, but they were not really Christian. It is incompatible. Either you are a divine emperor or you are Christian. You cannot be both. So the whole thing just didn't work, and it had to disappear, and it did. It did. And there was one person, I think, who was the only emperor who understood and acted in accordance to the situation. And she was an empress, actually, Galla Placidia, the daughter of the last great emperor of the Roman Empire, the last emperor who ruled over both the East and the West, Theodosius the first. And Galla Placidia, his daughter, became empress. And she was a real Christian, in my opinion. She never could even imagine that she was a divine being. She never would have dreamed of asking to the citizen to make sacrifices to her. She acted, actually, she understood the situation. She acted in such a way to give the final push to the empire, to make it disappear, because I think this is personal opinion of mine, because of course we don't know, we will never be able to know what Galla Placidia was actually thinking, but I think I can perceive these ideas that she left to us, that the empire is doomed, so you may as well give it that little push that it needs to collapse and disappear. She did it with a Christian viewpoint. For instance, she made a law that forbade the peasants to enlist in the army, because I think she said, well, the Roman citizen, the Roman people have to eat, and if the peasants go fight in the armies, what will the Romans eat? And another law that forbade the emperor to collect taxes directly. The governors would collect the taxes and then pass the taxes to the central government. But it was a big change that caused a great loss of power to the emperors. And Galla Placidia died in 450 of our era, and I think that was the end point. Maria was still emperors after her, but her son Valentinian III was managed to get killed a few years later. Then there were other emperors, but you don't know their names because they were really people of no importance, people who were still dressed in purple, but nobody cared about them. The empire was gone. And I think there's this big story, this spans over a few centuries, this point of no return in which two men clash against each other, and then things happen. And then the empire goes along a way that was by necessity. It would go any way along that way, but there was this turning point. There was this moment of change. And even for our empire, our world empire, which is based not on gold but on crude oil mainly, there will be, or maybe there has already been, this turning point, a point in which some subversive idea will be squashed only to return and to become dominant, and we will go into a new era, just like the Romans went into a new era from the imperial era to the Middle Ages, in which there was no emperor, and we are going in another age. It will be the equivalent of the Middle Ages, which was not at all an obscure, a dark age, not at all. We will go into something that right now it is not easy for us to imagine, but that eventually will happen because it has to. And this is the way of history. And thank you very much for listening.